Okay, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Adlane Fellah. Welcome to today's webinar, Ruckus MSPs Expand Your Options Without Losing What You Love. So my name is Adlane Fellah. I'm the Chief Analyst at Maravedis. For those who don't know me, this webinar is made possible by WiBUZ.com, and we have today the pleasure of having with us Magnus Johansson, who's the CEO at WiBUZ. So just a few housekeeping items. You probably already know that, most of you, but the event is being recorded and will be made available for replay probably today, tomorrow at the latest. And of course, the handouts will be available. We want this session to be really interactive. This is not your typical webinar where we're going to be presenting a bunch of slides and kill you with that. We want you to submit your questions throughout. I'd be happy to address this question even during the webinar. So don't hesitate to interrupt us and submit your questions. And of course, as always, we want to know how we did, and so we'll receive a very short survey at the end of the event, and tell us how we can improve and what topics you would like us to cover in a next event. We usually do at least one monthly webinar. Few words about Maravedis. So we are a boutique wireless infrastructure analyst firm since 2002. Covered all kinds of technologies from 2G to WiMAX to where we are today in that long journey, based in Miami, Florida. And today, with the complexity of the technologies and networks, we now are focusing mostly on private wireless networks. Obviously, Wi-Fi is a big element of that, but it's not limited to it. Private LTE, private 5G, IoT are areas that we cover if you're interested. And in terms of what we provide, it's a mix of syndicated market reports, the custom research, and lead generation. One of the reasons people do business with us is because we're independent and trusted, being around for so many years and having good contacts with many stakeholders in the industry. We recently celebrated 10-year partnership with the Wireless Broadband Alliance, which we are very proud of, in the form of the annual industry report. Those are some examples of the research that are more relevant to you today. Lots of research and reports around conventional rental connectivity, senior living, affordable housing. We're still looking potentially to do one on student housing connectivity. We also provided a good reality check on TIP OpenWiFi and are tracking the top 200 Wi-Fi MSPs in the US. I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll probably recognize some of the familiar faces. And we just got started 2 months ago, and we already interviewed some industry leaders here, both mostly MSPs, but also some industry trade associations like Red Sea, which is part of NMHC, and more to come. So please don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel, and also to subscribe to the newsletter, which comes every week, where we provide insights both around the pain points and trends for managed service providers, and look at also hospitality and multi-family, multi-dwelling units trends. So today the topic is vendor lock-in. So we have had the opportunity to talk to a lot of MSPs. Those are just a couple of them, and ask them, when you think of vendor lock-in and specific Wi-Fi vendor lock-in, what comes to mind? So here Robert Gross, who's the president and CEO of Worldview, said, the number one thing comes to mind is that they felt the loss of control of their business, feeling at the mercy of someone else's roadmap. And obviously that's not a comfortable thing. So I think that what illustrates is, the the feeling of powerless, being powerless in terms of one's own roadmap and features, requirements, and business objective versus whoever Wi-Fi vendor they have to follow and adjust to. And so that sentiment is also shared by Kyle Lesner, who's the president and founder of Wirestar Networks, a very dynamic guy and a very promising MSP. They're just frustrated by vendor lock-in and the never-ending R&D bloat. So I wanted to give some faces to the research we have done, because we did look at the MSPs through an online survey and ask them, what are your pain points? We have received 65 responses from MSPs serving mostly multifamily, but also hospitality, SMBs, and other types of venue. And most of them are using their legacy vendor management systems, but the majority aren't satisfied. And we just saw a couple of examples. Why they're unsatisfied is because it's very expensive and complex to maintain. And there's an endless R&D bloating and integrations, customizations, and that has takes a toll on the MSP's ability to grow. That in a context where it's very difficult to access skilled personnel, when you have to compete against the internet giants, Amazon, Apple, Google, it's difficult to find and retain skilled personnel to achieve those R&D requirements. And that limits growth potential. In terms of the current state, the research indicates that when we talk about expensive, that translates into between 200,000 and $500,000 annually at least for the majority of the MSPs. That means also they have to retain at least 6 developers in-house, and those are translating to cost and headaches. The majority, or I'm sorry, a big percentage use a mix of internal and external resources, meaning that they have the in-house developers, but they also try to offload some of that research and development to external parties, and that does come also with some challenges, including concerns about overruns and loss of control, and timelines not being respected. So, despite all of these heavy investments, the major issues still not resolved today. So what is the ideal state for MSPs, you would ask? And that's really one of them is removing the vendor lock-in, which is the ability to mix and match equipment vendors and systems depending on which market segments they're going after. And that also, another way to look at it is also, managing the different vendors from one single pane of glass or one single place. Another ideal step would be have a better integration with business systems. If we're talking about multifamily, that includes property management systems, CRMs, ticketing, everything that's needed in terms to run properly the business. I would say, among the wish list requirements, and we have a infographic that summarizes these findings that you can download on the WiBUZ.com website, is, the ability to have a greater control of features and integrations. And that has to do, again, with that frustration we highlighted earlier. All of that has, of course, one business objective, and that's the ability to scale. And what does it mean to scale with confidence? If you're a MSP and you acquire a property that has a different vendor already deployed, you want to be able to integrate that. Or if you're going towards a different market segment, let's say from high end to lower end and affordable housing, then you can't be using the same equipment. And so that's agility, the ability to adapt to market segment that's really required. So vendor flexibility, control, and more business agility. So that's all for me today. We'll dive more into your questions and insights. But now I would like to hand it over to Magnus Johansson to tell us his perspective on those findings and, is there a way out of this?
All right. Thank you, Adlane. Hope you guys can hear me well.
Yes.
And you see my slide?
You're good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. And today we will discover how MSPs are enhancing their trusted Ruckus deployments as well as other, I call them legacy equipment vendors, while seamlessly adding multi-vendors flexibility. And you can learn how to keep your favorite vendor equipment and yet unlock unprecedented growth and agility and innovation by adding all the things that you like. So in this vendor lock-in that Adlane talked about, it's not about criticizing your current tech partners. I think it's more of a wake-up call to the whole ecosystems that when you're forced to kind of choose camps, MSPs will start to experience real friction and frustration as they grow and new opportunity comes up. So let's discuss how we can actually turn these frustrations into opportunities, okay? We sincerely appreciate the job that we have done. We have been working within this ecosystem for almost 10 years now, and very closely for 8 of those years with Ruckus. And we have a very good experience with them. And as we now come out and provide you with our public available version of our software, I think you will see that it will really expand the competitive edge, and you will be able to move as MSPs to dual vendor or even triple vendor support as you grow. So WiBUZ OS is our virtual operating system, and it really is what we call a MSP builder's universe. The idea here is that there is all these vendors, the classic vendors and the new open Wi-Fi vendors, and all of them are offering either, not open Wi-Fi perhaps, but all the vendors are offering their turnkey solutions. And that is really good to start out. And then it is the APIs where they say, yeah, you can build whatever you want. And that's where the problems come for MSPs. It is that how do I keep the complexity, the cost, etc., under control? And that is where we stepped in and wanted to say, we can handle that heavy lifting by ingesting and managing those APIs across all these vendors. And that we do through a close cooperation with the vendors, not about alienating them, more of inviting these vendors into this universe, and the idea of integrate once and make available as a building block to the MSPs that are inside this operating system. Oh, sorry. And we have a unified single pane of glass. Sometimes that is spelled with P-A-N-E. That when you hear that single pane of glass, it's more of a does it really exist? And the way we built this is really around creating a end-to-end multi-tenant, multi-service single pane of glass. So it's not just a single pane of glass for dashboards and those traditional ones. It's actually around the operator having their single pane of glass where they manage their properties, their deployments. They can build automation, build workflows, and define products and solutions for what they want to do. and that can scale. So it's not about just the ability to see things, it's ability to execute. So it's the ability to use the APIs, not just to get the information, but to actually post and create these workflows using the APIs from one interface. So it really is a single pane of glass, both for operational efficiency and for, if we call it, the ability to view your technical details. And how do we manage all of this? It is that we harmonizing the APIs from these ingestion of the vendors. And this is not just the Wi-Fi vendors. It is switch vendors. It is IoT vendors. It is, all these other connectivity type solution, because we are agnostic on that level as well. And then it is to allow for a single API layer for other solution providers that want to connect into these and not having to do an integration into 10 different vendors. It's a one integration. So it is this kind of separation of the controller layer and the service layer, where we act as an intermediary. And instead of working for the MSP and add complexity, it is to say, look, we have this API layer and this API first approach, but we are not telling you to hire more people to train on a new system. No, we're saying, let us do that heavy lifting for you in cooperation. And we call that a live SDK, and that is our engineer. We have a big engineering team because we are a software developer. We are not selling this. This is a white label solution. And those software developers are embedding with your team and working side by side with you, not as a black box. So all the integrations are using APIs, are using known ways of doing it. So that knowledge is transferred to you, and if we call it, owned by you. So a lot of times the feeling is, isn't this another lock-in? And yes, it is an operating system. It is a single pane of glass, but it's branded your way, and it's how it's been integrated. So if you leave with that knowledge and that integration, and you can add if we call it, another OS on top of that later on. So I want to make sure that that is, and we can talk more about that. And the whole idea is that it is your brand and your way. So it's around you being able, as an ISP or an MSP or what, all the different acronyms, that you can deliver your service. It's not reselling another service. It is almost like in the mobile world where it is AT&T 5G, right? It's not AT&T 5G by Ericsson. It is just that, and whatever technology is underneath that, it's up to you to choose from that. And this platform has been in development for, as I said, a whole decade, and it has a lot of curated, already available use cases, solutions, workflows for almost any vertical and any case study that you have come across. We have come across during these 10 years. And one super important difference here is that by separating the controller roadmap and the APIs to the solutions roadmap, is that now you have the freedom to build what we call a dynamic roadmap, so that you can, inside your universe of our platform, you are totally free to deploy, to update, to upgrade, to do all of that without waiting for the platform. It is you could call it a microservice within this, so that it isn't where we work with you on your timeline, on your roadmap, on your what you want to deploy. So that is a big difference. And then you are not locked into and have to ask how to do it with the APIs that are provided by the operator or by the vendor. And one important thing is that in this integration, we do not make everybody the minimum common denominator. It is that all different vendors have specific things that they are really good at. They have specific feature functionality. And inside this, with our integration and deep integration with APIs, we are enhancing that. And inside this interface of the single pane of glass, you have a dynamic pane of glass. And we will talk about that when we talk about the case study for Jamaica. That if it is that one vendor has a feature functionality that another vendor doesn't have, inside the single pane of glass, it dynamically will show that, so that you know that if it is that something is, if you call it missing or is not the same as another vendor, it is still a single pane of glass. It's still a consolidated view. It's still all of these things. But if it is a difference between, we don't dumb down that feature functionality. It is there as a enhanced functionality.
Let me stop
the whole
you there.
idea is, yeah, go ahead. Is there a question?
No, I just want maybe pause here because, we promised this is going to be an interactive session.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Sorry, I talk a lot.
No, I mean, this is great. But I would like to ask, this is a webinar entitled, Ruckus MSPs, continue to use what you love, without having to give up on that. Why is this a good solution for MSPs using Ruckus to expand with, say, what's in it for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I will show that a little later, but as a short answer is that because we have had a long-standing relationship, we are a reseller of Ruckus, and we are a reseller of OpenWiFi through Net Experience. With that, inside this now, you have as a start, if you are a Ruckus MSP, it's a very low friction onboarding to both gain access to 10 years of different use cases to enhance your current Ruckus deployment and get you even more out of that, and give you a frictionless opportunity to add an open Wi-Fi path forward within this single pane of glass. So there is this where you can start with perhaps just that you want to test out open Wi-Fi, and over time, bring your own tech stack is what we call it. You can onboard your full tech stack. Onboarding your Ruckus tech stack is seamless. We have that down to a T. So that is for Ruckus specifically. For others that are using other legacy vendors, we have built and done all the pre-integration blueprints for and mapped all the APIs into our system. So if you are a Cambium, if you are a Meraki, if you are an Aruba, you also can come on board quickly.
Yeah, I've seen. So we have some Calix people here, so they're also welcome to join your.
Yeah, absolutely. Any vendor, as I showed in that if it is that a customer, it's two ways that a vendor can join this universe. It's one, if an MSP brings their tech stack, that bring your own tech stack, and they bring their preferred vendors, their investment, and we add this operating system on top. It's not about replacing, it's about enhancing and adding that service layer and the ability to quickly evolve as market needs are asking you. So I think that's the key. Okay. And we want to work with equipment vendors, because the same way that we are alleviating the heavy lifting of integration R&D that costs a lot for MSP today, The same way is it for the equipment vendors. You have your roadmap for your technology and all of that, but the requests from the MSPs and the requests from their MDUs and other things are bombarding you, and you need to respond to all these MSPs individually and kind of reinvent the wheel every time. In this universe, you can work directly with us, with your solution, and build these building blocks one time. And then when MSPs join, they can leverage on those integrations. As I say, that one-time integration. So it is and it's the same for the solution providers, right? So it is this idea of creating a co-opetition and a flywheel effect of integration.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. There is any other questions?
No, not for the moment.
Okay. So this was a little in advance of what what I talked about, this dynamic roadmap available to all, meaning a little like in Minecraft, to do a gaming analogy, is that you have these building blocks, and then when you craft them and you put them together, you create new ones, or you find new material. The same way here is that we are not giving away the secret sauce of MSPs, but if it is that a integration with a payment gateway, a integration with another radius provider, all of this, instead of having that to be repeated over and over again, because that takes resources for the MSP, resources for the vendor, etc., we want to alleviate that part, to work with us and our live SDK team to build those integrations and then make those blocks available in the unique universe that each MSP has. So that's an important one. And then it is that the more of these pre-built curated solutions are there, the quicker to market, that when you join, you pick up this kind of 80-20 rule, that 80% of what you need is already there. And then the 20% to tweak and to get you to exactly to optimize your MSP is where you work with us to get to that. And this has been proven with Telcos. It's been proven, and I will talk about a deployment in Jamaica. And we believe in co-opetition. This is where it is that the same way, and we call this perhaps the Android moment for the Wi-Fi connectivity sector, is that instead of being in this stovepipe where everybody is trying to be Apple, where everything is just not everybody can be Apple. It's like Apple can be Apple and Android is for everybody else. And I think that's where the MSPs and the equipment vendors of managed Wi-Fi need to embrace that approach to enable innovation without any, we call it permissionless innovation, to not have to wait for roadmaps, not have to ask to do it, be blocked to do it. Instead, separate that and get that innovation freedom. And by doing that, you will then be able to say, okay, I might work in a specific vertical today for MDUs as an example. It's luxury, it's smart home, it's all of these kind of things. And I have built all of these workflows. I built all of this that works really well. And now I want to expand down market into student housing, into low-income housing, without having to replace all these things that I have already built. And that is where we can help streamline that, so that instead you pick and choose the building blocks, the vendors that works for those kind of deployments. And that, I think, is the key to this, is to allow this unified interface with all the different pieces that you can plug in to enable you to reach your maximize your opportunity as an MSP. Any questions here before I go into the case study?
Yeah, we have one, and it's asking, do you have the capability to support Aero APs? Aero belongs to Amazon, with Ruckus and Meraki.
So when we say capabilities is if the equipment vendor have APIs that is, if we call it publicly or privately available, to integrate and to allow for both to pull in information, to configure and push configurations and other things, then it's not a problem. But many of these, if we call it the Aero, the Ubiquity and others, are more closed systems. So it all depends on what the that equipment vendor, if they are open to it and work with us, then it can be done.
Okay.
Okay, so Jamaica. So this was early last year in March. We were approached by MsTECH. It's a small MSP in Jamaica, and they had no prior experience in deploying and manage Wi-Fi. To install Wi-Fi, more like an IT shop, yes, but the ability to manage and do everything, they didn't. And they had won a deal of building out Wi-Fi to more than 1,000 schools. The first phase was 350 schools, and there was a big deadline to be able to do this within 90 days because there were some funding and other things that were on the line for the client to have in place. And they had first looked at, if you call it, to go directly to one of the legacy vendors like the Ruckus, the Aruba, the Meraki. But it was also a requirement to be able to be agnostic to vendor, to enable to add switches, enable to add firewalls, etc., from different vendors. And that to do that, either they were to have done it by themselves through APIs, and they don't have the people, they didn't have the time. And when they reached out to us, they said, we want to roll out. We have evaluated Ruckus. We want to do it. So since we are a Ruckus reseller, we worked with Ruckus and the sales team, and we got them up and running immediately so they could start to deploy. So they deployed 3,150 Ruckus APs and had their interface set up and everything. And even during those 90 days, they then said, we need to add OpenWiFi. And at that time, and this is the key here, at that time, we didn't have an integration with any OpenWiFi equipment or controllers. In that scenario, we got in contact with Net Experience, and we worked with them. And together also, the client had chosen Action Tech as an AP vendor. And during that 90 days, we also integrated and added this to the single pane of glass. So in that scenario is where the flywheel effect happened, that they could deploy very quickly with Ruckus and then add the second vendor that was a requirement. And that was, a big success, and it could only be a success because all were involved. It wasn't about alienating anybody. It was to bring everything together to give the power to the MSP to deliver on their promise. And just to say that this dynamic interface, this is one of the interfaces around dashboard and other things, was that they had some specific needs from their client that needed a overarching view of the whole network, of all the equipment, of all that from their IT department. And then to be able to drill down from that global nationwide view down to a single AP in a single school in a single district. And all of that was because, again, of the, if you call it the dynamic interface, we delivered on that again within the 90 days. again, building on what was already there and making the tweaks, the 80-20 rule. And I'll stop there and take more questions, I think. I think we have quite a bit of time to make it more interactive and dive in deeper in anything that you guys have questions about.
Thank you. And by the way, folks, please, don't hesitate to send more questions. I do have a question, which is one that is recurring, and how is your operating system different from, say, RGNets, Roaming IQ, or Cloud4Y, and similar solutions?
Yeah, I think the way we are positioning this is that it's not a specific solution for a specific use case, because RGNets is very much focused on the MDU. It's an end-to-end and great solution. It's not about that. Roaming IQ is also about more about the idea of being able to have a lot of PSK keys and this kind of thing. For us, it is, for example, Roaming IQ can be a module inside this universe for adding the capabilities of PSK and the single SSID and all of this that is needed for an MDU. But it might be that an open Wi-Fi solution or someone else don't have that capability. It's built into, for example, into a Ruckus. You have that coming with their end-to-end solution, but for others it's not. So then that can be adding a module into it. So we are more of a overarching, and we can bring those specialized offerings into this universe.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if you're ready to do that, but can you show a live dashboard example as requested by one of the participants?
Okay, I will. This is always, what do you call it? Dangerous, but we will do it. So let me stop sharing and do that in the background, and you can continue talking.
Yeah. In the meantime, guys, if you have other questions, we're here to answer them. And it could be also comments or any suggestions about topics you would like us to cover in the future. By the way, this is a call for MSPs. I am always interested in having more interviews for the MSP Network newsletter and the YouTube channel. So if anybody is interested in talking to me, those are 10 minutes interviews, and they're, it's just a conversation, and, they'll be part of the channel and the content. So don't be shy and reach out. I don't know if you can answer that one while you're looking at opening the dashboard here, but someone wants to, the same person actually wants to know how long it takes usually to onboard.
Okay, very good question. Let me first start sharing again. Share.
Okay, we can see your screen.
Okay. Yeah, so onboarding, you could say, is if you're is this a question from a current Ruckus MSP?
I don't know. I mean, I can assume that. Yes.
Yeah, so we have two ways of onboarding. Either we are hosting, as a reseller, we are hosting our own VACs on the Ruckus side. And on the Net Experience, we are in their cloud solution. We have a big space where we can do multiple operators. So if you don't want to host it yourself, you can migrate your APs and other things onto our VACs. or you can enable the northbound APIs and set up a domain and point it, and we can start with just one domain in your VSE, and you get access to all of this. As far as when it comes to radius, we have a radius, but we are also integrated, of course, with the Cloud Path and with others. But if it is that you have a one, we can do a hybrid where you might use yours for authentication and then use ours for accounting, so that without having to do an integration to get the dashboards to work, that is a start to get started. So to get onboarded for, if you call it a proof of concept, it's a couple of days to get you onboarded, to set this up. It's extremely low friction.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the universal login that is, of course, branded and set up for whatever the client is. It has multiple access control lists and other things. So depending on what type of user you are logging in, you will be seeing different things. You will be able to do different things, right? So it has all of that built in. It has built-in tracking, so it tracks whatever the user that logs in does. So if there is that you have to do something to see, did somebody log in doing something that created a problem, you have logs of all of that. So it has all of these things included. Sometimes I take it for granted. And in this scenario, logging in as a support, it is to say, yeah, I can log in, I can see the different ministries, and I can say, okay, the one that is active is the Ministry of Education. And in there, I can then go in and I can sign in either at the highest level, at a that's the nationwide level, or I can go into a specific school. And for this, I will go into the nationwide level. And when sharing the screen, it's usually it's slower than it is that in regular.
But by the way, there's another question, and is pricing based on per AP connection?
Yeah, so we have two versions of one is to say, no, if you are a member of the universe, it comes with all these feature functionalities. So you pay for if you call it a subscription to the operating system and all its capabilities. Then there is a R&D on demand, where it is to pay for R&D when you need it. And in those scenarios, we have a small per AP fee. If you are in where you want to be, if you call it all you can eat, when it comes to almost like a CDCI, where you get R&D personnel dedicated to you, it's shared resources, so it's much cheaper. But in that scenario, you will not have a per AP cost, because we know that we cannot be we are not replacing the licenses from your legacy vendors, etc. We are on top of that. And what we're saying is that the biggest value that we bring is this unified view and ability and the R&D. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
So here is a live dashboard of all the current, how many students are online, how many schools are online, how many devices, how many different inventory of APs, which ones are online and offline. Currently, there is a big amount offline, but that is not the reflection of down. It's a reflection of that APs have been assigned to the school, and it's not yet activated. And here you can go now down in a school district, or a state, as it's called, parishes in Jamaica. So you can go to a parish, and in the parish, you can go to a school. And in the school, you can then go down to an AP. And in the AP, you can then see the MAC address, you can see what SSID are there, you can see who's connected, what MAC address, how long, status, etc. So you have this ability to drill down, and you can see who are the online devices, who are using up most bandwidth, what are the peak throughputs. And again, these are in this view, it is the throughput at the school. And as you back up, it will be the throughput for the region, and it's then at nationwide, it will be the throughput of everything. And these dashboards are defined by the what do you call it? The client. These widgets can be filled with what your vendor can do. If it is switches, if it is firewalls, all of those are being added here in the second phase, and that will add more information that you can see when it comes down to looking at switch port, looking at firewall rules, etc. But the idea here is that you have the ability as a overarching support agent, IT manager, whatever it is, to be able to drill down and see this immediately. So any other questions here?
Yeah, maybe one around, what's your deployments in the US look like?
So in the US, the deployments have been through the partnership that we had with Ruckus and CommScope up until the end of this year. So we, at this point, direct deployments with MSPs is we don't have at this point, but we have the largest 10 telcos in the US have been using our solution for the past 8 years. So from a if we call it a scalability, a battle tested, all of these, all of it is there now for the MSPs in the US, and that's why we're having these webinars and these case studies and all of this is to encourage you and giving you now really favorable, if you call it that, favorable, let me go back to our last slide. Wrong view. Oh, yeah. Favorable onboarding opportunities for, especially for if you are a Ruckus MSP that wants to enhance what you can do with your Ruckus deployments and open up to explore open Wi-Fi. Yeah. So we are encouraging you to come now, because you will have both economical incentives, and you will get a lot of attention and VIP treatment to come on board with us. So we really encourage you to explore this and be one of the early, get into our early accelerated program and get going this year.
Yeah, there's another question that's more specific, and that's, can alerts be integrated with the ServiceNow for support tickets?
Yes, so ticket integration we have done, and again, if the ticket system you have, I will repeat this, we are API first. If you have it, we already have the blueprint of how to integrate ticket systems, and we have chosen not to have our own ticket because most of our customers we have seen have their own ticketing system. So you can pull that in, and if you want to be able to display what the ticket is, be able to say, I want to show these tickets to the property manager that has a property to see their tickets and see the status of it. All of that can be done and has been done.
Okay. We're almost approaching the top of the hour. Maybe a question that I think needs still clarification. Are you a SaaS or R&D house, or are you both?
We are both.
Okay.
So we are a SaaS in the sense of you subscribe to the same way that you can now subscribe to Windows 360 or whatever it's called, right? That it's the same idea. You subscribe to this universe, but in that universe you work, and you're not getting, I say this again, it's not locking you in when it comes to knowledge of how you have been integrated and how it is. You are using a operating system that is from us. That is the difference. And we have only focused on R&D to develop and maintaining this operating system. We are not in the working to sell directly our brand. We are an enabler of the MSP, an enabler of the vendor, and an enabler of the solution. We want to be that enabling layer.
Okay. We don't have any further questions. I want to thank you for sharing your insights, the audience for participating and sharing their questions. Please take just 30 seconds to answer the survey. After the end of this webinar, you'll get a prompt. It's very important for us. And again, reach out to me if you want more information about the MSP network newsletter, about the interviews, or about some of the research we do and the marketing activities we provide, like this one. And of course, to Magnus, if you want to get more information about the onboarding.
We really encourage you to come on board now. It's a great opportunity to get that multi-vendor and freedom to innovate and continue enhancing the investment you have already done. And I think this is an acceleration that we're talking about. It's not a replacement. It's not anything else than to enable you to reach your full potential.
All right.
And thank you again, everybody, for taking the time.
Thank you, and see you next month. Bye-bye.